And it's 5:30. We'll be ready when you are.
It's money we have already, and we're just making this. Okay. So it won't be money that was the one that
Hey, team, we're at 5:30. Tammy, we got to start. I'm sorry.
Close to the 100K.
That's you. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm Gina Steiner, Vice President. We're going to call this meeting to order on Tuesday, December 17th. I'm going to have Eric Cisney read our Kitsap Regional Library mission statement, please.
Inspiring curiosity and connection.
Thank you. Jason, can you introduce us to your team tonight?
Yes, hi, good evening. Welcome to our December board meeting. We have the usual suspects here tonight, minus one. Executive Assistant Tammy Jeffries, Deputy Director and Chief Financial and Operating Officer Dan Baer, the Executive Director of the Kitsap Regional Library Foundation is here, Wendy Kyle, Director of Human Resources and DEI, Lucretia Robertson, Deputy Director of Public Services, Shannon Peterson, and the Director of IT and Facilities Management, Mike Rose. Absent tonight is Director of Strategy and Communications, Jeannie Allen, on an excused absence, and no special guests tonight, and thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Jason. And seeing there's no public comment, we're going to go ahead and proceed on to the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion of the Board of Trustees with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired, items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request. Do any board members wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? No? Okay. I'll go ahead and have a motion for approving the November 19th minutes, the minutes of the December 6th board retreat, payment of the November 2024 bills, and removal of the surplus library materials.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. All right, we're going to move on to presentations, reports, and briefing. I'll start down there with you. Eric, do you have any reports?
I entered the board retreat, but other than that, I don't have anything to report. Retreat was very good.
I also attended the retreat. It was a great retreat. Discussed a lot, learned a lot. Just want to bring to everyone's attention that Doc Loves the Kids has a great partnership with the library coming up here on January 11th from 12 to 3 p.m. at the Bremerton Library. Definitely an important thing to do. Folks get pretty lonely this time of year, so please attend if you can. That's a big one. And also ML King event in January 20th at Fairgrounds.
Thank you, Marwan.
I feel negligent because not only did I not go to the board retreat, I was at Taylor Swift.
Oh,
I have been working on agenda items for this time around, but thank you.
Thank you. And I also attended the retreat and went and visited my local branch today and brought home an activity for my granddaughter to do, so that was fun. But okay, thank you, everyone. And I guess I will cover the Long Range Strategic Planning Committee for tonight. If you bear with me for a sec. So I'm sorry to say Stephanie is finishing her term with us, and I'm really sad to see her go. But we want to thank her for her service and being such a dedicated and loyal board member. The Kitsap County Commissioners are going to be interviewing candidates to replace Stephanie soon. We're working on our Sylvan Way replacement project, and so we'll be talking about that in 2025 and learning more. I think we're struggling with providing enough meeting spaces and meeting the demand for increased meeting spaces, and so that's something that our public service staff are working on. And we're looking forward to learning more about the levy lift in 2025 and proceeding with that campaign. And I'm also happy to say that in January of 2025, the library will be 80 years old. So that's really cool and something to look forward to celebrating. Do you have anything to add, Marwan? Did I miss anything?
Just a few policy changes for transportation that will go into effect in January, I think is really the biggest one, and upcoming maintenance for 2025.
Thank you. Okay, I guess we're ready to proceed right into our financial report, Dan.
Well, thank you. I don't have a lot to say tonight about that. We're a little behind in our property tax collections, but I'm hoping we'll make up some ground next month. They fluctuate greatly from year to year, because I, of course, go back like 10 years and look at them all and say, why is this off? But we'll get it back. So that's my job to do, to work on that. So any questions on the rest of the report?
No, you do a good job of explaining them, and we always appreciate all the footnotes.
Thank you.
Okay, Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you for your report.
Yes, so in November, the Director of Strategy and Communications, Jeannie Allen, as she had been the previous months, posted a new Thrive Ahead topic. Thrive Ahead is our long-range strategy for the organization, and our topic for November was around our first strategy of fostering welcoming and belonging, which is really the underpinnings of everything we do at the library and has been for a while. And so it governs everything from interactions with each other to assuming positive intent to welcoming our staff every day who make our patrons feel special. And you know, it's the secret sauce of our organization. I truly believe that. You know, so we firmly believe that our community's diversity is one of its greatest assets, and we're really proud of the work we've been doing this year to start to support language access in a better way. Really proud of the work that our team has done, led by Lucretia, and you know, whether it's doing culture responsive programming, as evident by our work with Washington Humanities. Really impactful story times this year, accessible resources or opportunities for meaningful engagement. We really strive to make everybody feel supported. I'm really proud of our staff who work at making everyone feel welcome who walks through the doors. And that's really evident in a lot of the comment cards we get. We get comment cards that patrons submit from all of our locations, and reading through those every month, they're always rife with healthy comments about our staff, and how staff always sort of kind of make them at ease, because it is intimidating for some folks to walk into a library and ask for services. And so I'm really proud of our work along that line. And moving forward, the library, as was stated by Stephanie and by Gina, in 2025 we'll be celebrating 80 years as a library system. And so we're really proud of the work that we've done throughout those 80 years. It'll be a good chance to showcase our history of being welcoming and belonging. And also, having the Levy Lit Lift work that will occur in the back half of next year. We're really proud to put that work out and that ballot out eventually, which will help to better support the lives of residents here. As we've heard through the committee agenda report, there's an increased demand for meeting spaces. There's an increased demand for workforce development. We really feel like this is a critical time to put a ballot measure out, because we really feel like the library, while it's pivoted to offering lots of community resources in addition to, of course, the educational resources and the resources for leisure reading programming and so forth and so on, libraries have really become de facto community centers. So we think it's very appropriate that the library is considering and putting together ballot language that will support the residents of this county, because we feel that the library is an essential service for the community, and it's one of the cornerstones of a healthy and thriving community is a strong library. So I'm really proud that the library will continue in that regard as being a place of welcome for all residents here in Kitsap County. And so I'm excited to be a part of that work for years to come with this team, and really thank them every day for their vision and support, and to keep us strong for the next 80 years. In November, through Human Resources, we had 2 staff members transition out of the organization. 4 more were hired. Our safety topic was cold weather preparedness, which is very appropriate this time of the year. Obviously, we had a couple of power outages that affected closures in a couple of locations in November due to the weather that was happening. And so I'm grateful that our safety team has timely topics that both give staff information about being safe both in and out of work. Our communications team in November added some swag to go along with our revamped recognition program, which is centered around our new library values of service, equity, and curiosity. So now nominees will receive a unique pin that represents the core value for which they've been nominated. And then staff will have the ability to collect multiple pins each quarter that they're recognized in more than one category. So really proud of the work that both Human Resources has done to reimagine the recognition program and that Communications has done to provide the necessary swag around that. And so, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into things like this. It is a lot of fun for staff, but a lot of work has gone on throughout the organization to continually prop up good culture and to make folks feel welcome. And so the recognition program, while small, it's really impactful to celebrate the work of our staff who really do embody those values of service, equity, and curiosity every day. So it's those intentional efforts that I think I've talked about here, fostering staff morale and culture to help us align around our purpose of serving the community with excellence and care, because we don't have staff that are happy in their jobs and feel like they're recognized. It's almost impossible to be able to meet the demands of a community that has various needs. And so really proud of our staff because, you know, obviously we run the gamut in things that we're asked for, you know, from the perspective that we're public employees. And so oftentimes in libraries are free places to come into, and we have free resources. So we're often at the forefront of having people right in our faces who are, you know, have needs that oftentimes we can't meet. And so I'm really happy that we've have staff who we can rely on to embody those values, and it really makes a difference. In November, we rolled out or put the finishing touches on. I mentioned last month in our board report that the library has a new platform to leverage statistics called Library IQ, replacing a previous platform there where we had Library HQ. And so under the leadership of Deputy Director Dan Baer, we're excited about the capabilities of this platform to really provide us with data-driven insights that hopefully will enhance decision-making, improve operational efficiencies, and really align the real thing that we hope it does is it better aligns our services with our community needs. As I mentioned previously, there are lots of community needs, especially post-pandemic, that we're not prepared to meet. So at least while we may not be able to meet those needs as a library system, it helps us really be able to align with our community partners who can meet those needs. And so we're hopeful that we can leverage those statistics. And it's not just only a tool for leadership. This is a tool that will be multi-departmental access. It'll be a platform to allow us to analyze usage patterns, again, identify those trends, and ensure that we can make, you know, better informed strategic choices. And you know, speaking of data, I'm really proud of the library's responses, especially throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. When I got here almost 3 years ago, we were still kind of just emerging from that space, and you know, the numbers were down, and I think almost every library realized significant drop in circulation, attendance. Obviously, a lot of that was impacted because the libraries weren't physically open. We were doing curbside, but also folks were just afraid to be out and around. And so, you know, I think the library's really rebounded well. I put in a sort of a 10-year view of circulation statistics, and I really feel like we're kind of flatlining now. But one of the things we have noticed through statistics is that folks are using libraries in, of course, other ways. Increased computer usage, increased meeting room demands, increased demands for programs, language access. You know, I read a comment card today where somebody wanted, you know, they wanted a program to learn Spanish, for instance, right? And so I think for us, we're seeing that folks are still in our libraries, and while we may have flatlined in terms of what our circulation statistics have been the last couple years, and while we may not have quite reached pre-pandemic levels, it's just natural that folks are finding ways to use the library that aren't in person, leveraging our mobile platform, which we launched late last year, actually. We have a mobile platform now, and we have a new website. So we have various ways that people can participate in library services. So we are really happy that our library staff have pivoted and have continued to provide stellar services, and I'm happy that Library IQ will be a partner in our endeavor to further dig into the community and continue to do the good work we're doing. And then finally, in facilities news, was mentioned in the strategic and long-range planning report, we're continuing to work on replacement options for Sylvan Way, which acts as our central library hub and supports the network of libraries that are in all of our communities and have been for 80 years and some longer. And so, as we imagine what this replacement will look like, it's going to be really important to have a more community-centric model that takes into account how libraries have evolved, like I stated earlier, as de facto community centers. And having robust community partnerships are going to be important to have these dynamic spaces that are really part of the fabric for what libraries are doing these days. And so, as you know, I've been on lots of different visits to libraries and some of the new library developments to really get a sense of how those folks have developed their libraries and what sort of processes they've gone into, and that's going to help inform the process that we'll take here. And so this approach, I think, will allow us to better meet the diverse needs of our residents and further, create welcome environments for them. And so we envision a facility that not only honors, Sylvan as it is now, but also embraces the future of what libraries are. And there are a lot of things, but they're vibrant educational hubs where technology is at the center of a lot of what we do, community engagement. And so I'm really empowered by the visions of those other library leaders, especially in projects that have recently been done in Spokane, I think, a few years ago, and most recently the project in Mount Vernon that I've talked about. They both are really good models for how the Kitsap Regional Library can take on a new library project and replace Sylvan Way. So I look forward to keeping the board updated as we dig into those opportunities in 2025 and bring this vision to life. I'm a firm believer that is a vision that could be right for this county. And so obviously there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of partner alignment, but that's all happening. And look forward to updating the board as we move forward. And then finally, I just want to, not part of my report, but I want to thank Stephanie George for her service on this board. As Stephanie, as you wrap up your last board meeting, I just wanted to thank you for being an impactful board member and for your years of dedicated service to the library district. You were a key part of the process for my recruitment here, and I just really want to thank you. It's been a good learning process, and I already miss our calls. I know they will stop when we got a new board president, but looking forward to seeing you in your next transition, whatever that is. So thank you. That's the end of my report. Any questions? Any questions?
I can't let my last meeting go and not ask a question. So I'm actually was curious when I read the circulation data, because it's one thing. So my question is a bit twofold. Does Library IQ track other points of interaction? Because the thing that worries about me when we show traditional borrowing in isolation is it fuels the story that we see so often in the media that libraries are losing their relevance. And so does Library IQ track other points of interaction? I can see in Next Steps, Dan, that part of it is to look at what the digital borrowing trends are as well. But I think particularly as you gear up for 80 years, and we gear up for the levy lid lift, that we can't necessarily afford to show that data in isolation because people won't read the fine print, that it's just one piece of the puzzle today, and we really do need to show how much libraries are as relevant today as they've always been, and that people are just doing different things.
Library IQ will track digital usage as well, and there's also the other point I'm excited about is that we can put our statistics in there. We can refine our statistics from what we've been doing, because we haven't really had a chance to do that. So Shannon and her team are going to be looking at the statistics we've been using, finding out what's more relevant for the use. But we can add layers of statistics for program usage and other things that we're tracking right now, or things that we might track in the future using technology, and be able to put it into this database and be able to generate real-time reports on that data rather than waiting till the end of the month and collating all of this information.
Yeah, that is so exciting, actually, Dan, so thanks for that.
It is.
Any other questions for Jason? Thank you, Jason. Okay, we're moving on to old business, and I think, Stephanie, you might lead the discussion on this?
Sure. So before the board today is a second reading of the Library Director Compensation Board Policy. That isn't a mouthful, I don't know what is. I don't title them, I just help get them here. You can see, because we've included a red line version in the board packet so that board members could see what was different between the last time this appeared, which was the first reading, and what's happened since, and I'll just highlight those. It occurred to me when I was looking at this in review after the last meeting that item C, really that was around the competitive market, was really not fully stated before, because it's really about that marketplace, and that we had neglected to identify that should there be a transition, past process really has been that there's been a hiring committee that helps shape the plan in partnership with staff going forward. So I included that. In the section E around setting and maintaining compensation, I thought it was important because, again, you know, you want to provide good context for the particular components of what it is that we're doing. And so I added that context in terms of what was our guiding principles for each of the steps that were then listed as how we go about setting and maintaining compensation. We also included in, I don't even know what page this is, page 3 of 6, just a notation that another place where we might use a third-party consultant. We don't do that automatically, but it's certainly embedded in the policy in the event that the Board of Trustees would like to engage a third-party consultant, as we're doing this year. We don't do it every year, but this year is a good example, and we'll speak about that in a moment. And then finally, it also occurred to me, because this happened to me 5 years ago, actually, the transition of the Board of Trustees happens at the end of the calendar year. So, you know, I'm going off, and likely you'll have a new member of the trustees in January, but that also then coincides with the work of the board around Jason's performance. And so, as literally, I think I'd had one meeting, maybe two, and all of a sudden I'm part of an evaluation for a library director that I've had no line of sight to. So this particular piece has been added to clarify that whatever the process is, even though in my case, like, I'm outgoing, it provides the pathway for who the active board members were at the time to actually provide the commentary into the performance year that was supervised by that group of people. And then, of course, the new board member, of course, would be a part of that and at the table. But it just felt super awkward to me that when you only have a 5-member board of directors and then all of a sudden you're brand new and you're being called to make decisions about compensation of somebody that you might not even know very well at that point. So that's the context for that particular change. So with that, I'll open it up to fellow members of the board to see if they have any other questions or comments or concerns, or if we feel we're ready to move this forward.
My only question was, how did you, the new 3-month overlap timeline, how did we come up with that magic number?
Oh.
Is it arbitrary or?
It's not arbitrary. But that's a really good question, Gina. So the other thing that happens that, and this was really because when we did this, not so much last time, because we didn't do a 360 with the members of the leadership team. It was really just a board-focused process in that kind of alternate year. But 2 years ago, when we did engage a third-party consultant, and we wanted that line of sight that comes from including an opportunity to include leadership team in a 360 process that's also protected for confidentiality and candor. What that meant is they really liked having the opportunity to do that, but it came, we have this crux where it was coming in December and the contract renewal is in January, and we felt we had to have the performance review all at the same time. And the feedback we got from the staff was, that's hard, and frankly, it condenses. So what we had talked about as we were gearing up into this policy and spoke particularly with Lucretia and I think a little bit with Dan about this item is there, we don't actually have to link the performance to Jason's renewal of contract or the library director's renewal of contract, so that we can go ahead and renew the contract based on really practice we've done before, and then give ourselves a little bit more breathing time. We don't want too much breathing time because it's got to get done. And so it seemed like when you think about how long does it take to get statistics and for Jason to be able to actually compile a self-assessment that actually includes all the data from the 12-month year, we figured that would kind of take him into January, and then our work is going to be done. I'll speak to this again in terms of how this will work this time around in February, and hopefully we're really done by the end of February, 1st of March, but there's some lag time in there, but definitely to be done by Q1 in the calendar year, because otherwise it just all slides, never gets done.
Thank you. And as Stephanie pointed out last month, I did a pretty careful review with her the first time around, so I don't have any additional questions or comments. Eric or Marwan, do you?
That was my thought. You covered it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think as usual, Stephanie's done a really good job on this, and so I think we're ready to move to approve it.
Thank you.
Okay, then I think we're ready for a motion to approve the Library Director Compensation Board policy.
I so move.
Do you want me to second? I'll second. Thank you, Marwan.
All right, a motion has been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, and I also think that you're covering the plan
I
for the
am.
director evaluation.
I am.
What are we going to do without you, Stephanie?
Well, somebody will figure it out, right? So what's included in the packet, because again, we've just been so committed to transparency and wanted the public really to see what kind of tool we're using to evaluate the library director's performance. This really is the most important job that the Board of Trustees has. We have one employee, and that is the library director, and the way that we can best ensure the vitality and the relevance of the library is to actively work in partnership with the library director to make sure that we have a top performing leader and to support them well and to have supportive reciprocal conversations along the way about goals and how this work gets done. So along with that, I think it's important that the public sees that we're actually taking that job seriously and that it's important. And so what this lays out is really the tool that's being used. This time around, it really is there is no written survey. We're using a third-party consultant that frankly was the consultant we used when Jason was recruited to the community. We're doing that on purpose because it provides us good continuity across time. We used the same consultant the first year after Jason was hired to help aid the process. This time around, what will happen is that Fred will do one-on-one interviews with each of the trustees privately and each of the members of the leadership team. Those conversations are confidential so that people can be candid, and then Fred basically scrubs those. He looks at those for themes. We don't get direct comments, to the board. He's looking for themes. That also helps that if you have a person who's really an outlier one way or the other, they're super glowing or they're super negative, it helps put some of that in context. And then those themes get written in a written report that is then presented to the Board of Trustees. It looks like that's going to happen not coincided with the regular meeting in February because Fred's traveling, and so, but along that week, so we've got some dates to do that. And then once that draft report has been presented to the trustees and they've had a chance to weigh in on that, it's finalized, and then the president of the board then takes that for a one-on-one conversation with Jason. So that is laid out in a memo that's in the board packet along with the tool in terms of what does the compensation or what does the performance look like this time around? So if there's no action on this other than just informational.
And my assumption that this is the tool that, like, as we use it, and we talked previously about having a objective third party like Fred help us, and then every other year, maybe the board does it itself. And my assumption is, like, once we use this tool as a board, we can figure out if it needs to be refined any. Like, it might be different if Fred uses this tool versus if next year Eric's using this tool, and, you know, taking it and applying it is really the best opportunity to see how good it is.
Right. And so that we will get practice with it. And really, we started with a template for Fred and looked at, given the context that we're currently working with, what 4 or 5 buckets seem to be relevant this time around. The tools were very different. The first time we used Fred, because Jason didn't have any goals, for one. This time around, because we want the feedback from the leadership team directly, who that work hand in hand with Jason every day. We were really looking around themes of culture and leadership and those kinds of things. You could choose in the future, Gina, to pick a whole new set of buckets if that seemed important or relevant at the time. I would reinforce that if you're going to do 360s, that it really is important that you use a third-party consultant to really give staff that opportunity to be candid, because it's just such a breach of, I mean, we love working in partnership day to day, but it's really a breach of power in some respects to be asking the leadership team to get candid about their boss. It's just not great, you know. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing 360s, by all means, I think for the support of the staff and really the support of Jason, because he's been very amenable and open to wanting candid feedback. In the years that you're not going to use a 360, then you as a board can figure out what the tool is that you want to use just amongst yourselves.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate you taking such an active role and
it's my parting gift.
Yeah.
Or not. One or the other.
Really, it was a lot of work, so thank you.
Thanks. Well, it was great. I mean, you do the work and you pass it around and people provide input and comment and you change the work and we get a good product together, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to move on to new business. Annual election of officers, Stephanie and Eric.
I'm going to pass this to Eric because he was the one who led it.
Well, there wasn't much to it. There wasn't much to it, really. The nominating committee would like to nominate Eric Fong for president and Gina Steina for vice president, and they both agreed to that. And so I think we need a motion to approve that slate.
I'll do that. I move to approve the slate of officers as presented.
Second?
Say aye.
I thought you were going to say something else.
No.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And I'm really glad Eric was willing to take another year at presidency. As you guys know, I'm going through some major transitions in my work life, and we all do this as volunteers. And so I appreciate how invested you have been as a chair and really meeting with Jason. And I think it takes that level of commitment in the president position, and Eric is willing to do it. So I just want to thank everybody for their understanding and thank Eric for his willingness to continue. And then in 2026, well, there will be another opportunity. Okay, so Resolution 24/08, adoption of the 2025 final operating budget. Dan Baer, do you have anything to cover or add or say to this?
It's the same budget that you saw last month,
Okay.
and we're just looking for adoption of that tonight.
Okay, we'll have a motion to approve Resolution 2024/08.
I so move.
Marwan said it's the last one. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And I think that's it. Future meeting dates is Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. And then you can visit the Kitsap Regional Library webpage for other dates to remember. So I think meeting adjourned. Thank you.